Hello friends, in this discussion we'll be understanding what is object-oriented programming in a very simplified way, and also we'll be using some Python examples to understand the concepts. So let's start. What is object-oriented programming? So object-oriented programming is a way of designing software where everything is an object. And what object represents? It's a real world entity like person, a car, or a number. Now let's understand some basic concepts. What is class, what is object, and what is a method. Class is like a blueprint for an object, so it's nothing but a template, and object is an instance of that class. So you have a template, and when you create an instance of that template or a class, that is called an object. So take for an example, car could be a class, and when you create an object, like it could be my car, your car, so that specific instance is called an object. And methods are nothing but functions that belongs to a specific class. So and also it defines actions that objects created from the class can perform. So an object, when you create that object and if you want to perform some actions, so using those functions you can perform those actions. So example here, as I mentioned, drive could be method in the class car. So we'll see that with some examples. Let's move ahead. Now let's understand what is class variable and what is instance variable. Class variables are nothing but which are shared across all the instances of a class. So let's say one example could be, suppose you have a dog class and that class may be having a variable which is called species, and that species variable could be shared across all the objects of that dog class. We'll see that with some examples. And instance variables are specific to that created instance. So here if you see, unique to each instance or unique to each object. So when you create an object, that instance variables is specific to that object, but class variables are shared across all the instances created from that class. So we'll see that in a bit with some examples. Let's move ahead. Look at this code. So this is a simple example of Python class where you see that a class, dog class, has been created and there is a variable called species. So this species variables are nothing but it's a class variable. So this variable would be shared across the instances created from this dog class. And this is an initialization function, or you can say that this is a constructor of that class where you have defined some instance variables. So name and age, these are called instance variables which are specific to the object created from this dog class. And this is the method inside this class. Then here if you see, uh, we are creating an object from that dog class. So my dog, this variable is nothing but an object created from this dog class, and we are also initializing those instance variables. Like in name I am putting buddy, in age we are putting 5. So this is an instance of dog class. Now how to call a method? So bark is a method inside this class. So here we are calling, so object dot function of that, or the method of that class. So my dog dot bark, it's calling this function and generating this output. So that's how you call the method of a class. Let's move ahead. Now here we'll explain what is a class and instance variable. So there are two concepts, class variable and instance variable. So as we seen earlier, we can see two instances or two object is getting created here from the dog class, dog1 and dog2, and we have initialized this instance variables. Now accessing those instance variables as well as class variables, we can look at here. When you call this method get detail, so it access this instance variable as well as the class variables. Here you can see, so the class variables, if you see, it remains same what we have initialized here, although these are two objects, but if you see, both the objects are sharing the same class variable, so that's why the value is same. So that's how the concept is. Class variable would be shared across all the objects created from that class, and instance variables are specific to that instance or specific to that object created from that class. Let's move ahead. Now we will discuss about what is a static method. So static method doesn't depend on any instance variable of a class. So it is used for utility functions that are related to the class but don't need to access or modify instance specific data. So it could be generic utility functions which is defined in the class. So it doesn't require any object to call that function. So we'll see that here. If we see, this is a static method inside this class, and we define like this. Calling that static method is very simple. You don't have to create any object of that class. You can directly mention the class name dot this function. So it would be directly called, and these functions would be shared across the instances created for this class. So you can create instance of that class and then call it, but for calling the static method, it doesn't require any object to be created. It necessarily doesn't require any object to be created. You can directly call like this class dot that static method. Okay, so now in summary, what we have understood, class is a blueprint of creating an object. So as I mentioned, it's a template. An object is an instance of a class. Method is a function within a class, and class variables are nothing but shared across all the instances. So these variables are common to uh, all the instances created from that class. Instance variables are unique to that instance or unique to that object, and static methods are also independent of class instances. So these are not specific to objects created from that class. Static methods are also independent of any specific object. So these are very high level overview. We can go into deep or in subsequent discussions. Thank you.